In the past year on social media, I've noticed a trend towards humor that's not like easy to understand or easy to express. Like for example, it might not be easy to see exactly what is humorous when you first see it, or it might not be very easy to to express to others who don't understand the humor what exactly is humorous about it. I would argue that this is a modern form of absurdism, and there's some examples shown on the screen. But first, before we talk about that, let's talk about the origins of absurdism and what absurdism is. Albert Camus was one of the foundational thinkers of absurdism, and according to him, absurdism has two main tenets. The first is that the world is innately random and meaningless, and the second is that it's human nature to seek out meaning from this meaninglessness. One of the most famous quotes from his essay titled The Myth of Sisyphus is, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy." So in this context, Sisyphus is cursed to forever push a boulder up a hill, and no matter how long or how hard he works at his task, he's never fully able to accomplish it. So in that sense, his life and his purpose is innately meaningless because he will never accomplish that task. But the second part of the quote, Sisyphus happy, comes from the fact that Sisyphus here is recognizing that his life is meaningless and he's kind of extracting meaning from that meaninglessness. This quote made a modern comeback in 2023 on social media, and people were putting this quote over overly mundane like experiences or situations where they feel like they had like no control. And I think this comes from the fact that like polls show that trust in government is at an all-time low, and the younger generation is increasingly fatalistic, which means that they think that things are more like up to fate or like random, or that their contributions do not matter or their actions do not matter. And these things kind of directly lend themselves to the whole idea of like nothing really matters, everything is random, life has no meaning, aka like the loss of control and despair that is foundational to absurdism. So this is an example of a meme that doesn't directly reference the ideas of absurdism. But I would argue that this is still absurdist humor because it contrasts it between the seriousness of knee surgery and the mundane kind of tone of voice and overall look of the meme. And another part of this meme that I think is like essential to modern absurdist humor is that it's like hard to understand just inherently, right? There's not a whole lot of context here, and when you're looking at it, it's at first it's like you don't understand like what is going on. So there's not like a lot of humor in this image. It doesn't have the setup and punchline that you kind of typically expect from humor. But there, I would argue that there still are objectively elements of humor, in that it kind of subverts your expectations in multiple ways. First, the text and the image do not match, right? Like the text has nothing to do with that image. And it also subverts your expectations by looking like a meme, right? There's the classic image and text on the top and bottom format of a meme, and it also has the font of a meme, but it doesn't really read like a meme because, again, the image and the text like do not match at all. So at first glance, it might look like a really low quality, low effort meme, but this image is like wildly popular on social media. It's garnered probably hundreds of millions of likes across multiple platforms. And why is this? I think that it's because the joke is hard to understand that this is popular, and knowing the meme makes you part of this like in group or this community of like a niche portion of the internet, and people flock to this kind of space because they want to feel feelings of like inclusion or like being part of a community. Another example of absurdist humor is Italian brain rot. So Italian brain rot is a series of AI generated nonsensical images, often combining animals and food or animals and objects. And so I've shown 3 examples on the screen above, but there are much, much more. And Italian brain rot first gained traction on social media in early 2025, and it got millions of likes on platforms like TikTok and Instagram, and it was everywhere. News articles were talking about it. I remember like NBA sports announcers were even like referencing this on live broadcast. And if you're not watching this in 2025, you may not believe this was even a thing because it just sounds so crazy. But that's why I have the receipts. So you can see like these are Instagram posts, and the left one has 1.5 million likes. The right one has, a third of a million likes. This was something that was really popular. But as soon as it appeared, like as fast as it appeared, it also like disappeared pretty fast in just a couple of months. And I think Italian brain rot is a form of escapism. If the world seems too overwhelming, you can go to something like this that is nonsensical and just very, very low stakes, and something that you don't really have to use your brain a lot to interact with. Hence the name brain rot. But the as much as the fast increase of popularity is fascinating, so was the really fast decline of popularity, right? Like even more than normal trends. And I think that this decline of popularity came from the fact that it got like just too popular. People were looking for a sense of community and a sense of belonging that they got from knowing what like Italian brain rot was. And as soon as it got really popular and it became mainstream and everyone knew what Italian brain rot was, that appeal disappeared, and the feeling of belonging, the feeling of community disappeared, and so did the popularity of Italian brain rot. So why is absurdist humor becoming more popular now? Well, the first is I think people are experiencing a loss of control and a loss of like just feeling that their actions and choices matter. And this directly ties into the idea of absurdism, that everything is innately random and chaotic and that nothing matters. And the second is that I think people are looking for these absurdist memes and this absurdist humor as a form of community. They want to feel like they belong. And a lot of these absurdist memes, I think, are somewhat like self-referential. Like people talk about them and they'll mention them in conversation just like you would like a Star Wars meme or like a Star Wars quote or like a quote from a movie. But Star Wars is like rooted in like a real piece of um, there's the books and there's movies, like there's real content about Star Wars. But for example, like when that feeling when knee surgery is tomorrow, like it's not actually referencing like a real piece of content. It's just kind of referencing itself. And in this case, once it becomes too popular, it kind of like it feeds on itself. And once it becomes too popular, it the feelings of belonging can disappear, and that's when the trend kind of dies. And the last part of why absurdism is popular now, I think, is because of AI. The emergence of AI makes the creation of these absurd images like so much easier than it has ever been, which has contributed, I think, to the rise of absurdism. These are my sources, and thank you.